This message comes from NPR sponsor Carvana, making buying a car 100% online with real, transparent pricing and customizable financing that fits your budget. Browse thousands of cars and get yours delivered. Visit Carvana.com today. Delivery fees and terms may apply.
One thing I've seen more and more of on my feed, and I'm guessing you might have seen this too, is something kind of eye-opening. People talking openly about the realities of pregnancy and childbirth.
Skin tags everywhere.
I literally told my husband I don't want to have another baby because I'm scared I'm actually going to lose teeth this time. I could wiggle my teeth when I was pregnant with my tongue.
Being pregnant is not beautiful. It is so painful. I want y'all to see what pelvic pain looks like.
I am glad we're having that conversation. Pregnancy comes with a lot of side effects and risks, and these risks aren't distributed equally. You might already know how complications, negative health outcomes, and even death are more common for Black mothers. The Black maternal mortality rate is 3 times higher than it is for white mothers. An estimated 80% of pregnancy-related deaths in the United States are preventable, according to the CDC. But what's causing Black mothers to die more of these preventable deaths is racism. There are racist cultural ideas that get baked into our healthcare system. And my guest today found that even if Black parents throw everything they've got, status, money, respectability, you name it, at making pregnancy and delivery go smoothly, they can't always outrun racism. To get into it, I'm here with Earl Warren Professor of Public Law at UC Berkeley School of Law and friend of the show, Dr. Khiara Bridges. Khiara, welcome back to It's Been a Minute.
It's so good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. So we are here today to discuss your book that just came out this year called Expecting Inequity: How the Maternal Health Crisis Affects Even the Wealthiest Black Americans. I want to start by talking about this clinic that you started your research in, Golden Health in San Francisco. This is a pseudonym for a real clinic that you spent time in. Tell me about the type of people who walked into there and how the overall vibes, may have been similar to or different from what you saw at the public hospital where you researched for your previous book, which was about the maternity experiences of low-income Black women.
Yeah, I spent 5 days a week, 8 to 5 observing this clinic. And I would say that the thing that struck me most about the clinic was how familiar it was to me, because it's the type of spaces where I receive my healthcare as a commercially insured person. And so in the book, I actually discuss how I had so much in common with the patients who received their healthcare at Golden Health. Like we bonded over, attending Columbia at the same time. One woman was in the business school, I was in the law school. We bonded over going to the same vineyards and wineries in Napa Valley when we want to get out of the city. And so the patients who received their healthcare at Golden Health tended to be commercially insured. They tended to be wealthy, high income. They tended to be highly educated. These are not people who you would describe as marginalized. These are not folks who you would describe as vulnerable. These are also folks who expected the most out of the institutions that they go to for the services that they pay for. And so they expected a lot out of Golden Health in terms of quality healthcare, but also in terms of experience, in terms of customer satisfaction.
This is clearly a very well-resourced doctor's office with very well-resourced patients.
Part of the punchline of the book is that Black people can't purchase an escape from racism. We can't buy ourselves out of anti-Blackness in the U.S. Moreover, Black people know this. Black people who are pregnant know this. They know that there's a Black maternal health crisis going on. And so they're trying to leverage their privilege to get out of it. And so the stories that I sort of ground the book in, they serve as a reminder that this is not paranoia. This is rather grounded in real experience. And so I started the book with the story of a woman that was pregnant with her first child. And it's just a series of horrible events. She was misdiagnosed. She had a very scary symptoms of a racing heart. She would go to the ER because her heart was racing. She said she would call her doctor saying, I think that I'm dying. They would tell her that she's fine. After 6 months of this, she finally goes into labor. She's in labor and delivery. Her heart starts to race. They decide to do an EKG at that point, and they discover that she has a pregnancy-induced heart condition that could have been fatal to her the whole time. It could have been fatal to her baby. So this symptom was dismissed. On top of that, throughout her pregnancy, she kept going to the ER because she would have this delirium-inducing pain and nausea. She said she would writhe around on the floor in pain. She would go to the ER. They would tell her that she's fine. She would report her symptoms to the midwives at her next appointment. The midwives would say things like, you're probably just stressed out. Or my favorite was, you probably just need a better bra, because it seems to be like back pain. And so you just need a bra that's more supportive of your breast. Turns out she had pancreatitis. By the time that her pancreatitis was diagnosed, 6 months after the birth of her child, mind you, once again, her symptoms were ignored. A diagnosis was missed, potentially lethal. She had emergency surgery to remove her pancreas. So it's stories like these of dismissal, of not being heard, of not being listened to, of being disregarded, being expendable, that counsels Black women that they need to do whatever they can do to survive their pregnancies in the midst of what has been styled the Black maternal health crisis.
I mean, that's a lot to contend with. And, as you mentioned, there are, many Black people who get pregnant or plan on getting pregnant are aware of this discrepancy, are aware of the statistical differences in their odds for a healthy, safe, peaceful birth versus a white person's odds for a healthy, safe, peaceful birth. You mentioned that of the people that you talked to, that some of them, they were trying to use whatever resources they had to try to mitigate this. Like, in what ways did the people that you spoke with at Golden try to outrun or outpace or outclass a negative or racist experience in the doctor's office?
Right, yeah. There were so many different strategies, and, some might be expected, like performing class privilege was like surviving racism 101, right? You have to signal that you're not one of those Black people who should not be getting pregnant and who should not.
Which is so messed up in the first place.
Absolutely. It's like this awful condition that we're placed in where we have to participate in respectability politics, right? So essentially by distancing ourselves from the idea of a person who ought not to be reproducing, we're kind of reaffirming the truth that there's somebody out there who ought not to be reproducing, which is, the stereotype of a welfare queen who's only having babies in order to increase the size of her welfare check. First of all, it's a myth. It's a mythology.
It's already kind of sickening enough to think about having to be in a position where you feel that in order to receive proper care, to not end up in a life-threatening situation, that you have to make yourself not seem like other Black people. But it's really more so you're trying to make yourself seem like, I'm not like this completely made up, evil, imagined, like racist caricature of what you think a Black person might be like in your head.
Absolutely. I'm trying not to be this myth that somebody created in order to accomplish political ends. Yeah, I'm not this figment of your imagination. I title one of the chapters, Going to the Doctor in Yale Sweatpants, because Black folks find it very important to signal that they went to Yale. They might be in sweats, but the casual dress has an insignia that demonstrates that they went to an elite institution. But one of the ways of trying to purchase or signal an exit from anti-Blackness that was surprising to me before I started doing research for the book was that, well, first of all, if you're married, you're not taking off that wedding ring during your pregnancy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how swollen your fingers get.
Yeah, if you're going to go see a doctor,
If you're going to go see a doctor as a pregnant Black woman, you're going to make sure that they know, and everybody knows.
It's so messed up. It's so messed up. All of this goes to underscore what you were finding, basically, that you lay out in the first pages of your book, which is privilege is not protecting Black people from racism, even with all of these mitigating factors that people are trying to throw up. However ugly they may feel to practice, they're not necessarily preventing people from having these really difficult experiences. Yeah. And yet, in your book, you compared the patient experience at Golden Health to San Francisco General Hospital, what many people call the General. It's a larger hospital that serves the city's lower income and uninsured residents. And during your research, you noticed that going to the General was seen by expecting moms, even Black expecting moms at Golden Health, as the last place they'd want to have a baby. Yeah. What was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so the General is the city's poor person's hospital, right? It's like mythologized as the place where the most vulnerable, the most marginalized of the city go when they need health care. And it's true. Like if you have a mental health crisis, if you have a substance use disorder, right? The General is the place that cares for the uninsured. It cares for the Medicaid insured. And it's also mythologized as this place where you're not going to get good health care. Now, in the book, I talked to doctors who have worked at both the General and Golden Health, and they were not on board with the sense that the General is not offering good health care. In fact, they would say the health care that the General offers is on par with the health care that Golden Health offers. But what the General can't offer is experience. It can't offer non-existent wait times. It can't offer the green tea in the waiting room while you wait, which is what they offer at Golden Health. And there's this conflation between like patient experience and quality of healthcare. And so Black people, first of all, they weren't going to go to the General in the first place because that's where they think that, you know, if you're a sex worker or, you know, having a mental health crisis, that's where you go. Secondly, they know that there's a Black maternal health crisis happening in the United States. As you mentioned, you know, we've been told this for the past decade or so. And so their thought is if the Black maternal health crisis is happening anywhere in San Francisco, if Black people are dying during childbirth anywhere in San Francisco, they're dying at the General. There's no way that they're dying over at Golden Health. And so they're not going to the General because of, you know, these myths about the General, and they're going to Golden Health instead. And I raised the question about whether that's actually most beneficial for them. I mean, the General is a place that its very reason for existence is to care for marginalized people who are marginalized on various sort of axes, you know, immigration status, you know, ability, but also race. And so the General is a place that takes anti-Blackness very seriously. It identifies as an anti-racist institution. And so there's a question about whether Black people would be better off going to a place that its very reason for existing is to challenge systemic problems like racism. But nevertheless, they go to Golden Health and they try to perform their class privilege as their survival technique.
I'm just absorbing everything you've just said. On one hand, I could understand why you would want to use every advantage that you had possible, right? Yes. Any advantage available to be able to give yourself a better experience. But there are so many assumptions about what kind of care a person can get. And still, I think about like, you know, someone like Serena Williams talking about, you know, opening up about like some difficulties that she had in her postnatal care as a very rich, very famous Black woman.
And also very healthy. Like
I was going to say, like one of the most, like, I mean, one of the winningest athletes in the world, like in sports history, right? And she still had this experience of having some very serious symptoms dismissed. And we can probably assume she put her money towards pretty expensive care, right? There's still this assumption that the best place to get care is the nice hospital or the nicest doctor's office.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I draw the analogy to HBCUs. So, you know, historically Black colleges and universities. I am a proud Spelman graduate. You know, Spelman is a college that is built for Black women. Now, when I was choosing colleges, there was my family, of course, and my dad went to Morehouse, whatever, and my brother was going to Morehouse. Like we're a Spelman Morehouse family. And so they were like, you're also going to Spelman. Happy to support that decision. But there's another element of the interactions that I had that were like, oh no, like you can go to Harvard, you can go to Yale, you can go to Columbia, you should go there. And the idea there was these are the most talk about well-resourced, right? Like these endowments are in the hundreds of millions, if not billions at this point. And so the idea is that you go to these well-resourced places because you're going to get all of the benefits that come from being at a place that has a lot of money, being around people who have lots of money, being able to make those social connections and so on. I went to Spelman nonetheless, had an amazing education, although Spelman has a fraction of the endowment that these Ivy League schools have. Question, which one was better for me, right? Which one was better for me?
Yeah.
Was it the place that orients itself around making sure that Black women succeed? Or would the better choice have been to go to the Columbias and the Yales and the Harvards as an undergrad and try to navigate anti-Blackness as well as misogyny in these elite institutions while I'm trying to get a basic, undergrad education? I know the right answer. Spelman was the right answer for me. And so the analogy is to the general, right? The general has a fraction of the resources that the Golden Healths of the world have. But as a Black person, are you better off at this place that orients itself around anti-Blackness? Or are you better at the well-resourced place that, has anti-Blackness as something that they're concerned about, but really are they oriented around challenging it? It's a burden of Blackness that, again, non-Black people don't even think about. And I can say that confidently because while I interviewed 200 people for this book, only 75 of them were Black. I interviewed 125 non-Black people. And I can tell you, I let these conversations go wherever they wanted to go. And never in my 125 interviews with non-Black people did they raise concerns about their race disadvantaging them during their pregnancies. This is really just a problem that Black people have to think about.
We're going to take a quick break, but first, you all know I really love hearing from you. And many of you keep leaving the kindest notes for me in the reviews and comments. One listener mentioned that this podcast is the only way to start their day. Forget coffee. Another wrote that if this show is talking about a topic, that story is worth paying attention to. Listen, I work hard to have my ears to the ground for you. And I am so grateful to all of you for always coming back 4 times a week. It would also mean so much to me if you could rate and review the show wherever you listen. It helps new listeners discover the show and allows this community we're building to keep growing. Join the IBAM team. Rate and review this show right now. Thank you so much. Coming up after the break.
The idea that it's Blackness, it's that explanation, or that's the way that culture is deployed in those ways to make us comfortable with Black people dying. Essentially, it says, you did it to yourself.
Stick around.
This message is from AT&T. With your summer essential, the iPhone 17 Pro. Its center stage front camera auto-adjusts the frame to fit everyone into group selfies. Right now at AT&T, ask how you can get iPhone 17 Pro on them with eligible trade-in. Requires eligible plan. Terms and restrictions apply, subject to change. Visit att.com/iPhone for details.
This message comes from BetterHelp. Summer can feel like a sprint. Kids home, trips to plan, routines flipped upside down. It's easy to slip into survival mode, just trying to get through it. Then suddenly, it's over, and you're wishing you enjoyed the days just a little bit more. Therapy can help you slow down and actually be present for the moments that matter. With BetterHelp, you can connect with a licensed therapist from anywhere, on your schedule. Don't just survive the summer, thrive. Visit BetterHelp.com/NPR.
Hey, it's Robin Hilton from NPR Music with some big news for everyone who loves the Tiny Desk. We're giving away a trip to D.C. to see a Tiny Desk concert in person, hotel and flights included. Learn more and enter for free at npr.org/tinydeskgiveaway. No purchase or donation required for entry. Must be 18 years or older to enter. Links to the entry page and official rules can be found at npr.org/tinydeskgiveaway.
One thing I appreciated about this book was how you broke down the arguments that people use to explain the disparities in healthcare between Black patients and white patients. One of the most common stereotypes is that Black people are predisposed to certain health conditions because of our genetics. I see you shaking your head. Can you break down
I'm so tired, Brittany.
what's problematic
So tired.
about that? Because that was a section where I was like, okay, she's getting into it. Break down what's problematic about that.
So, as you just described, there's this sense, and it's not just popular amongst white supremacists, like it's also popular amongst people of color, but the idea that Black people have some race-specific genetic variation that predisposes us to all the things that kill us more frequently than our non-Black counterparts. So the idea is that we have some gene, some genetic variation that makes us vulnerable to hypertension and kidney disease and diabetes and heart attacks and maternal mortality and infant mortality and cancer. And so there is just no empirical proof of this. There's actually no theory of evolutionary biology that would explain why people of African ancestry evolved to have predispositions to all these things that would kill us. And there's also research that shows that when African immigrants, so people who were born in Africa.
Talk about it.
Yes.
This was very interesting to me. Please talk about this.
Yeah. People who were born in Africa, when they immigrate to the United States, so they're first generation, they have health outcomes that are on par with white people in the United States. So they don't have hypertension, they don't have diabetes, they don't have cancers and maternal mortality and infant mortality and all the things. However, when those African immigrants give birth to their children in the United States and their children grow up in the United States, so now these are African American people, their health outcomes are on par with Black people in the United States. So if there was a gene that was predisposing Black people to all manner of death, then we would see high rates of diabetes and hypertension and heart attack and kidney disease and all those things amongst African immigrants, amongst people in Africa. But we don't see that. The only thing that we see are the higher rates of all of these illnesses amongst people who have lived in the United States for some period of time. And so that is kind of, to me, indisputable proof that there's no gene that's killing Black people, but rather it's anti-Blackness that's killing Black people. It's anti-Blackness that's making us sick and shortening our lives. I will tell you that people are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars looking for this race-specific genetic variation that explains all manner of death and disease amongst Black people. They're going to keep on doing it. They're not going to find it. This is a myth. It is a myth that we've created that helps us not do anything about all the things that are actually killing us.
Okay, so I want to talk about another one of the, I guess, explanations that you also unpacked in a portion of the book. But in order to talk about this myth that you unpacked, we got to talk about a previous appearance you made on NPR. A few years ago, you came on NPR to talk about how Black people were dying disproportionately from COVID-19. And that very same night that your conversation aired, you got an email from a listener who wanted to let you know that it is not structural racism that was killing Black people, but that Black people were dying because we have a culture that makes us essentially fat and lazy.
Right.
Actually, to quote her email to you, which you quoted in the book, this person said, there is a culture, all caps, culture of great food, family fun, ... but not physical fitness. These people have made themselves sick. Those two words were in all caps. Stop eating fattening food. Go to the food bank and eat vegetables, not fast food and fried chicken.
Yes. That's one of the perils of having an email address that's on the internet. Is that I get people.
You're braver than I am. You're braver than I am.
People email me to let me know about Black culture, which is so rich, right? Like it's
right, because this person was not Black who sent this email.
No, she wasn't.
No, so she didn't know I guess she kept saying that they were making themselves.
Yeah, but I will also say this is not something that only white people believe about Black people, right?
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I mean, clearly, obviously, this email is a bit extreme, but even in like professional settings, like one thing you often hear in conversations about why healthcare disparities exist among racial groups is culture.
Yeah.
Like the idea that Black people have certain beliefs and engage in certain behaviors that create or exacerbate health risks.
Yeah.
We even hear Black people sometimes saying this amongst each other. We see this with diabetes, we see this with HIV, and we see this when pregnant Black people experience health issues. What are your critiques of this idea, and how does it relate to what people experience going to the OBGYN?
Yeah. So I started thinking about culture as a concept like in my first year of my PhD in anthropology school, right? Like that's the object of anthropology is it's the study of culture. And it's one of the most contested concepts. Like, what exactly is culture? What do we mean when we say culture? But moreover, when we describe a people as having a culture, immediately that erases all of the variations within that culture. And so we will say, you know, Black people, they have a culture of like religiosity. Black people are Christian, and so they believe that God will heal them, and that's why they don't take their medications. And you'll hear that, and that explanation erases the fact that, one, there are a whole bunch of Muslim Black people.
Very true. Very true. Very
Number
true.
two, there's a whole bunch of atheist, agnostic, right? There are a whole bunch of people who are Christian, Black people who are Christian, but who actually don't believe that about like there's a tension between believing in a God or a Jesus that heals and also taking your hypertension medication. And so what the culture concept does is elide all of this variation within Blackness. It does it, you know, within, you know, Latinx identities. It does it within white identities. That's just what the culture concept does. Moreover, the things that are identified as like Black culture are like stereotypes, like the fried food things. I'm vegan. I don't eat chicken, but I'm not the only person in the country eating French fries. Black people aren't the only people in the country eating.
Black people alone cannot power the amount of Popeyes chain locations that have opened across the country. It can't just be us.
It can't be us. We don't have that kind of, you know, spending power. Not yet. So the idea that it's Blackness, it's that explanation, or that's the way that culture is deployed in those ways to make us comfortable with Black people dying. Essentially, it says you did it to yourself. Like you had all that family fun and all that fried food. And so if you bleed out after giving birth to your child, well, that's on you. Y'all need to do something about your culture, as opposed to paying attention to all the structural issues that are making it hard for Black people to eat foods that are not fried, that are making it hard for Black people to not go outside and run the 2 miles that I just did, because they might live in violent neighborhoods. They might live in neighborhoods where there are no green spaces. They might live next to a highway where it's actually worse for you to run outside because now you're inhaling pollution.
That would not be good health advice.
No, absolutely. So again, the culture concept alongside the genes are killing Black people are both excuses to not do anything about the systemic structural issues, the conditions that are actually making it hard for Black people to just live healthily in the United States.
You know, we've been talking a lot about people who have been open about having racist experiences in the doctor's office, but what about people who deny, people of color, Black people, who deny that race played a factor in their birthing experiences at all?
Yes. I tell the stories of these people who I encountered who had every reason to believe that race and racism explained a very negative experience that they had in healthcare settings. I tell the story, I forgot the name that I use in the book because I give them all pseudonyms, but this woman who she just wasn't listened to during her labor. They weren't giving her information about why they weren't performing a C-section. Her baby appeared to be in distress. There was meconium, which is a sign of fetal distress. They didn't perform a C-section at that point. There was this long, traumatic birth experience where if she told me, and I think the reason it went down that way it's because I'm Black, I would have been like, yeah, I think your Blackness might have had something to do with that. But she denied the role of race in her experience. She explained it in terms of the healthcare providers training. She was like, oh, it's because they're midwives. Even though there was a physician present, and she knew there was a physician present, she's like, oh, it's because they're midwives, and midwives don't like to do, interventions like C-sections. And so after talking to her and talking to another, few patients who also dismiss the role of racism in these negative experiences, I had to think about why? Why would in a country that demonstrates its disdain for Black people every single day, why not believe that race played a role in your own personal experience? I had to reflect on it and think about just how it feels when I know that race impacts me negatively, when I know that something happened to me that was awful, and it probably wouldn't happen to me if I was a blonde white lady. It's very disempowering. It's very hurtful. It's like it denies agency to be subjected to negative treatment because you're Black. And so it might actually be an act of agency, an act of autonomy to say, nah, actually, no, that's not because I'm Black. It's because they're midwives. Because then at that point, you can do something. Next time, you don't have to go to the midwife. It's like a clawing back of the power that racism denies. I came to that after some time because I personally was upset by the stories. I was like, girl, come on. It's me. We're just talking,
You felt like they were almost putting on, they weren't being real with you.
They weren't being real, or they were participating in a politics that I find offensive. It's this part of this political program to deny the existence and persistence of racism in the post-civil rights era. But then I had to kind of come to terms with the fact that, acknowledging racism it might even be life limiting to acknowledge racism all the time. It might actually be stressful to recognize that racism is limiting your opportunities and your life experiences. And so again, it might be like a clawing back of that autonomy and that power to say, no, actually, I am the master of my own universe.
This response was at least common enough for you to have coined a term for it. Talk to me about that term.
So I call it the racial renunciation. I felt it important to have a term to describe this phenomenon because I don't think that it is unique to maternal health care. I don't think it's unique to Black people even. I think that it is a strategy for navigating a country in which race matters so very much.
Kiara, you've painted a harrowing portrait of Black maternal health outcomes in America, and you've researched, studied, and written about this extensively across a variety of environments. How do we fix this crisis?
I know it's so important to think about solutions. The for-profit motive that underlies our healthcare delivery system perverts the decisions that individuals make within that system. It perverts the decisions that institutions make within that system. And in a country that has never come to terms with its horrible racial past, those decisions, those compromised decisions, are going to disproportionately and negatively impact Black people. I don't think that it is possible to solve this problem through a quarterly implicit bias training. I don't think we're going to solve this problem through a cultural competence workshop in medical schools and nursing schools. We need to think about residential segregation and actually integrating neighborhoods and integrating hospitals. We need to think about actually taking racism seriously. It's hard for, the Momnibus Act was, recently reintroduced. And this is an act that is supposed to address the U.S.'s, maternal health crisis. But race has been scrubbed from the Momnibus Act. It is no longer mentions racial disparities. It no longer mentions Black people as dying at more than 3 times the rate as their white counterparts. It is now colorblind, in keeping with the Trump administration's, orientation. And I don't think that we're going to solve a problem that has racism as its engine through race-neutral means. We have to take racism seriously. And as I'm saying in the concluding chapter, I don't see a solution to this problem. I don't see us having equity across maternal and infant health outcomes when anti-Blackness is just a banality. It's a big problem, but it's certainly a solvable problem. I can identify individual efforts on local levels in which midwives and obstetricians have eliminated racial disparities in preterm birth outcomes and low birth weight through these targeted interventions at communities. So it is possible to eliminate these disparities. It's just that we have to have the political will to do so.
Thank you so much, Kiara. It's so good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, thank you. And so good to be a friend of the show.
Yes. We love having you as a friend of the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was Earl Warren, professor of public law at UC Berkeley School of Law, Dr. Kiara Bridges. Her new book, Expecting Inequity, is out now. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Liam McBain,
Corey Antonio Rose.
This episode was edited by
Nina Patak.
Engineering support came from
David Greenberg.
Our supervising producer is
Cher Vincent.
Our executive producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
This message comes from Grainger. For the ones who get it done, Grainger offers the professional-grade products you need to get the job done. With fast delivery and access to technical product experts ready to help you meet any challenge. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. This message comes from Thumbtack. Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews all on the app. Download today.
Richard Reeves is unimpressed by online influencers who peddle ideas about hyper-masculinity.
You're talking about boys and men. Where's your policy agenda? You're good on podcasts, but we've actually done a bunch of stuff for boys and men. Sorry, what have you done?
Ideas about the next era of manhood. That's on the TED Radio Hour podcast. Listen on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.